a change.
Do you have a URL?
I did send out the URL on email. I'm pretty sure it went out because I got a million out of the hours.
Everybody grab some food. We have all the tea.
We will start momentarily.
I'll just sit right up front. Thanks for doing that. Am I able to
That too.
what?
Do you want to
No.
they'll move it.
that good? I don't want to be on camera.
I was thinking there's furniture, but I was just like,
Or do we just say
I don't think I'm
Okay, so why don't we get going, everybody? Thanks for coming. We have lots to talk about today. So, full agenda. My name is Heather Schumann. For people who don't know me, do we want to do a quick introduction of the steering committee? So why don't we do that, and then we'll welcome new staff. So, steering committee members, arise, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Pamela O'Donnell, and I'm going to be co-chairing the program committee this year. Oh, I'm in a college library.
My name is Amy Glassell. I'm in Library Technology Group, LTG, and I am working with professional concerns and
and I'm Peggy Smith, and I work at the Business Library, and I am the treasurer this year.
Hi, I'm Katie Sanders. I'm working the camera this year and secretary. Apologies for the bad camera work.
I'm Todd Michelson Ambelang. I'm here at Memorial, and I'm on professional concerns and Cassie.
And I'm at Steve Bus Library, and I'm the dean. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'm in the
Gee.
I'm Anna Simon. I'm at the Fuller Art Library. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but it'll be great.
The lead programming.
Programming. Yes. And I'm back from Wayne.
So thanks everyone for coming. And if we'd like to welcome new staff, so if new staff could stand up and just say who you are, where you're working, and then.
Working at College Library, regular content library. Hi, Sean. I'm a resident librarian in College Library.
Yeah, my Shiva, and I work in a library technology group.
Awesome. We are very glad you're here. Okay, so we welcome your staff. So number 2 on the agenda is the HR update. So Nancy, perfect timing. And Melissa, come up and update us.
So I have 2 updates for you. One, broken record. If you have not taken the sexual harassment training that you've all been bugged repeatedly about, I would make sure you put that on your calendar and do it soon. September 30th is the deadline. Campus has not given HR access yet to see who has and has not taken it. Guaranteed, once we get that access, the bugging will be more persistent, more frequently until you do that. So save yourself the time and headache, put it on your calendar. It takes about an hour. And if anybody has any questions, please let me know. The second announcement I want to make is, I'm sure you've all also heard about the Title and Comp study going on. There has been numerous emails inviting you to campus forums where you will participate and learn more about it. I encourage you to go to those. The other announcement I wanted to make is that I have been asked and accepted to take the role of being the campus team lead for the Title and Comp study for libraries and museums. So I have yet to have my kickoff meeting, so I don't really know what that all entails. And I'm not comfortable telling you who's all on that committee because I don't know if they've been notified just yet. So once all that becomes apparent, I will be sure to let you know who's all on it. Does that mean I'm expected to hold forums? How am I getting that feedback? I don't have any of that information yet. I see a meeting put on my calendar for later this week. So I will have it shortly, and if I have it, I will share it at the all-staff meeting so I can keep you up to date. But I just wanted to let you know that you will definitely have an input. I'll definitely be looking for feedback, regardless of what the parameters they say, and that will keep you all involved and as up to date as possible. once I get further direction, I'll be sure to pass that on to everybody. Questions? This or other topics? Yeah.
Did they announce the time horizon for the compensation study? I've heard everything from a year to 2 years to 3 years.
I have heard that they hope to wrap it up in 2 years. 2 years from what date? I can't exactly tell you. Did that timeline start 3 months ago? Does it start? That I'm not sure about, so I can see the gray area there, but 2 years is what I've heard.
Thank you.
Since the IT staff already had something happen for that, I'm assuming that the IT staff are not covered in the library museum one?
You are correct. There is a separate IT group looking at that, and so yes, so you will be interested on who's represented and who's speaking for the libraries on behalf of the IT. And we have just a few other people who are like the business staff. We're not covered in libraries and museums either. So we're watching the other compensation surveys for that piece. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
So I was going to say this for the announcements, but since we're on the topic, there's also an ad hoc committee that is going to be assembled or is already assembled for the 2 years of this whole study that's just focusing on feedback from folks and what they think to get back to the kind of the main committee who's working on this titling and compensation. And I'm on that committee. I've only met with them once, and I think our work's going to ramp up more after the forums, but I'm going to be going through the forums, trying to get to as many as possible, and then reaching out to everybody to, like, so you can funnel some feedback through me, and then I can deliver it to our committee.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have a few benefit updates. Most of the updates for open enrollment are going to come after my afternoon meeting on October 2nd, and then you will start getting lots and lots of emails from me, so look for those, probably starting October 3rd. Open enrollment this year is October 2nd to the 27th, so you have until 4:30 on Friday, October 27th to do any changes. And this is obviously open, so you don't have to wait for a live event. You can make any changes, even if you just feel like changing your provider. If you want to add spouses or dependents, you can do so as well. Just make sure you have their birthday, their, well, if they're born, their birthday, marriage date, and social security number. So make sure you have all of that, and you can add as many people as you like. When you go through it, you'll get a confirmation statement. So just like last year, check your confirmation statement. It'll come within 24 to 48 hours. And if you want to make any changes, let me know. I'm not sure if we'll have a locked portal again. So if you submit your things, last year you had to let me know if you want to go back in and make any changes. I'm not sure if that's going to be the same or not, but it might be. And I'll let you know on October 3rd. Some other things to note. The benefits fair this time will be October 17th from 11 to 7 p.m. at Union South and Varsity Hall. So unlike last year where it was like before open enrollment, now it's going to be towards the end of open enrollment. So make sure you don't wait until the benefits fair to make your choices. Kind of use it as well, now that you've made your choices, you can go and talk to the people you chose, ask them questions, face to face. You don't have to wait on the phone and dial and wait for the computer to get you to the place you want to go to. You can also get some really cool swag. So use it more as like an information for what you've already made for a selection, not choosing your selections. Again, you're going to have to re-enroll every year for HSA, FSA, and opting out. This year, opting out, though, won't be a paper statement. You can actually do it through the electronic portal, so that's kind of cool this year. Let's see, any other things? I do know the WRS contribution will go down from 6.8 to 6.7 as of January 2018. I do know that at least. And this year we'll also have a new tool called Ask Alex. I don't have a lot of information for you right now, but there will be more information to come. You get to talk to this computer. It looks like a little jelly bean called Alex. The high deductible or the IYC, it's your choice health plan. You can kind of go through it, ask you questions, and then it kind of tells you these are kind of some of your options, but I'll have more information about that to come as well. And then self-service, I did have some questions about that. That is not happening in 2018, so you don't have to worry about that next year. And then aside from that, wellness events, we have the wellness screening coming up on September 26th. So if you have enrolled or registered for that, don't forget. It's from 11 to 3 p.m. in Memorial 116, and it only takes 15 to 20 minutes. This year, once you do your screening, you'll have to do your online assessment. It only takes about 10 minutes. It's pretty simple. All of your biometric stuff will get uploaded automatically, so you don't have to fill that in. And then you'll get your choice to have either an online voucher or a Visa card mailed to you in the mail. I recommend the Visa card in the mail unless if you do a lot of online shopping, but you do have the option this year. And
Can you just clarify for the wellness, Wisconsin screening here, it is still something people have to register for appointments with?
Yes, you do have
It's
to
not
register.
It's not a drop-in, like the blood drive,
Yes.
come by when you can.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. Yes, you do have to enroll. There are still spots available, and I'll be sending up a follow-up email just as a reminder. Yep.
And if you can't make it to ours here, you can also go online and see where else and when else they are on campus.
Right.
But hurry up because there's not going to be too many more offered, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can also go to your doctor as well, and they can fill out the form and submit it. You have until October 20th to do any of the 3 options. Come to ours, go to another site, or go to your doctor. It is free. Part of you get 1 free physical a year. So as part of your physical, you can also do the screening with them. It is pretty painless as well, and they mail out the information themselves, so you don't have to do anything. And it's the same sort of thing. It'll get uploaded to the computer.
And if you're an opt-out person, you do not qualify.
Right. Right. You have to have insurance with the state through the university. But if you have insurance with someone else, they may have something through their plan that is something similar, but you would have to contact them. Yep. And if you want to understand the results of your screening, on October 18th from 12 to 1 here in Memorial Commons, we're going to have a webinar, and that we do a webinar every month. It's like the wellness webinar. You probably see emails, but the one in October, on October 18th, we'll actually go over some of the readings that you get from the screening, so you can actually know what they mean, and we'll give you some tips on how to improve or maintain what your scores are. So, anyone have any other questions about benefits or wellness stuff? All right, well, thank you. And, yeah.
Thanks, Nancy and Melissa, and now Kelly Hughes. Hughes will talk about ISIP and the Library Ambassador Program.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly Hughes. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm at College Library. I'm going to start by talking about ISIP. ISIP stands for Information Specialist Internship Program. It's a paid internship for 2nd and 3rd year undergraduate students. If you're unfamiliar with the program, please get in touch with me, or there's some information on the staff site too with other steering committee members you could get in touch with. So I wanted to give you some information about where our current interns are placed, update you on hiring, and then just chat a little bit about supervisor availability for spring. So currently we have 2 interns who are returners. Katie Gagan is currently at the CMC with J-Ray. Alonso Del Rio is at Teaching and Learning Programs with Sheila Stokel and Alex Stark. And then Anna Wong is doing a semester abroad, so she will be back in the spring semester. And then we have 1 new hire who started just a couple weeks ago, and that's Kira Cronin-Hennessy. And Kira's with Pamela and myself at College Library doing collection management and marketing module. We are going to hire 1 additional intern for this semester. And our application review is currently set for September 28th. If you have any current student assistants you think would be a good candidate for the internship program, please do encourage them to apply. Another thing I wanted to mention is over the summer, we started a project of reaching out to former interns to get outcomes, to hear where they are now, how ISIP had an impact on their career and their graduate careers and beyond. So if you're currently in touch with any former ISIP intern, it would be helpful if you got in touch with us and gave us their contact information, or if you could reach out to them on our behalf, that'd be helpful. So just get in touch with me with that information if you have it. So for spring, if you could start thinking about your availability for spring, that would also be helpful. If you've never hosted an ISIP intern, Please get in touch with me or again another steering committee member, and we are very happy to meet with you one-on-one and help you design a module and talk about the different options that are available. Any questions about ISIP? So just a few words about library ambassadors. You might not have heard about it recently, so I just want to assure you that it still does exist. We are working on changing how we're incentivizing participation. So previously, students had to pretty much be hired by the GLS, go through, like, if they're not employed by campus, go through the I-9 and all the paperwork. So we found that that was a large barrier. So we're working on different ways to reward them for participation, and so we're currently working with business services so that we're following all of the campus policies. Once we get that figured out, which I intend to get that figured out within the next week or so, then we'll be doing more active recruitment. And so again, I'll probably send an email out to y'all about that when we're ready to go. And if you could encourage student employees that you think are like especially engaged or interested in the libraries to apply through the library's website, that would be helpful. And then just something to keep in mind as we go forward into the semester, once the library ambassadors are more active, if you would like to meet with a group of students to talk about any service or resources that are changing, you can get in touch with me and I'll get that scheduled. Or if you would like a library ambassador to help you staff an event or a resource fair, get in touch with me too, and we can make sure that we have a library ambassador available to accompany you.
I'm sorry, so library ambassadors will be paid? What is that you said?
Yeah, so currently, so the library ambassador program is relatively new. It's been around for 2 years. And currently they were receiving like $10 for every event or meeting that they attended, and that came through payroll. So we were playing around with gift cards, not sure if that will work, and then there's another option that we're currently investigating. So. Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. So Tom Durkin and Ian coming up.
Could we unmute the screen?
So Tom and Ian will talk about academic assembly.
Hi, so my name is Tom Durkin, and I'm one of the representatives for the Academic Staff Assembly for District 525, and Ian is the backup person for 525, and Aaron Carrillo is the representative for 526, and I forget who is the Rebecca. Okay, great. So at the last meeting, there were a number of different issues that were discussed. We're not going to go through everything that was discussed at the last Academic Staff Assembly meeting, but maybe just a few of the highlights. Scroll this down a little bit here. So Matt Cronenberger, Matt Cronenberger, who is the president of the Madison Academic Staff Network, talked about the Madison Academic Staff Network, and this is an organization that serves the community of academic staff. MASN provides information about issues pertinent to University of Wisconsin Madison academic staff members and a forum for discussing these issues. So these are the notes that are up on the wiki for the Librarians Assembly, and you guys can click on these links and kind of explore some of these things. The thing that they have coming up it's coming up most soon is the fall breakfast, and that's going to be held on Thursday, September 28th at the University Club from 8 to 9 a.m. You can click on their schedule right there. They also will have some other events that are coming up over the fall semester. Those aren't quite scheduled yet. They don't have all the information up on their website. I actually made this a bit bigger.
And this page is linked in the agenda. So if you go to this meeting's agenda, you can get to this page.
So Nancy talked about the Title and Total Compensation Study update, so we won't go into too many details with this. Nancy will be able to answer the questions you have in more detail later in the future. But just to kind of explain a little bit, if you haven't been reading emails, the millions of emails you've gotten about this. So the goal, according to Mary Luther, from the Office of Human Resources, is to have a well-organized titling and salary structure in place for UW staff in order to inform staff career development and advancement, so that there will be a new salary structure that's market-based. There obviously have been some concerns from people, and Mary also mentioned that no staff positions will be cut and base pay will not be reduced as a result of the study. So they're framing this as something that will inform advancement of your career and like raises, or the way people might get paid when new people are hired, but no one's going to lose their job or get a pay cut because of this study. We've got some links on here and you can kind of explore more information, but I just want to point out one thing here. Got the forums. I'm just going to scroll down to the schedule here. So, so the next forum for staff to kind of get more information about this study is going to be held on Monday, September 25th from 9 to 10:30 a.m. In all the instructions, it says you have to get supervisor approval, so make sure to ask your supervisor before you go to the forums. And then there's also going to be another session on Thursday, September 28th from 1:30 to 3. And then it looks like another whole series of other sessions, October 2nd, October 10th. So just remember, if you go to these, if you go to the notes on the Librarians Assembly, in the Librarians Assembly section of the wiki, we've got some links here you can kind of explore this. And I would direct any of your questions to Nancy. So next, we heard a summary of information about the switch to VoIP from Chin-Soo Chen from the Division of Information Technology. They have a project website you can explore. Probably the most important things for us as staff to recognize about this study are that we're all going to be getting new telephone equipment. So if you haven't got, I know some people have been switched over already. I'm on the schedule for this fall at some point. We're all going to get new telephone equipment. It won't affect the emergency 911 dialing. So they want to make sure everybody understood you can still dial 911 if there's an emergency. For many, many years, actually, I think I looked this up, this goes back a really, really long time, maybe back to like the 1890s or something like that. You could dial 5 digits on your telephone to dial someone's telephone number, so that's going to be ending. So no more 5-digit telephone dialing. All right, so I'm going to skip over the ASEC updates, etc. I wanted to point out that there was a really short little report that I think everybody will appreciate from ASPRO, the Academic Staff Professional Representation Organization, that supposedly all staff will be getting a 2% pay raise in July of 2018 and another one in January of 2019. So I'm just reporting what they said at the last Academic Staff Assembly meeting. Just keep your fingers crossed that that actually does happen. So there you go. And then the last report we heard was from Warren Heller. He's the Vice Chancellor for budgeting for campus. I think the most important thing for us, if you work with Wisdom, Warren's looking at coming up with some kind of replacement for Wisdom. So if you use Wisdom for figuring out your budget, Warren doesn't like Wisdom. He's going to replace it with something else. Does anybody have any questions about anything I reported? Yes.
So I'm just kind of curious. This is a bigger issue than what you're presenting here. But has there ever been, to anybody's knowledge, discussion of the fact that it's very elitist to give percentages of raises instead of just giving a block? Like for people who make less money per year, if you say you're getting 2%, that's nothing compared to somebody who's making $100,000+ a year.
So
2%.
I would like you to direct those comments to Warren Heller.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Ian, I think you're up. Ian's going to tell us about redistricting.
Actually, I have one thing to
Oh,
add.
sure.
Since someone asked on the timeline for the, I would.
I'll put that link on the screen.
Well, actually, if you just, it's linked off of the first link, which is the main page for it. So if anyone did want to see the timeline, I mean, I don't know how much they're going to stick to it, but there is like other aspects of the timeline. If you scroll down there, if you click on phase 1, and then project plan, meeting. That is their timeline as of now. So to March 2019.
All right, so my name is Ian Benton, pronouns he, him, and his, and I am here to talk a little bit about the redistricting that occurred. In my capacity, also the co-chair of the Districting and Representation Committee for Academic Staff Assembly. So this is all my fault. Right? So fundamentally, the redistricting occurred because of we were not in compliance with our own districting rules. The assembly was not, it was wildly out of compliance with its own districting rules. The district sizes ranged from, in some cases, 4 people to, in other cases, 300 people. So wildly screwed up, not proportional representation, total mess. Not a mess anymore. We ended up kind of overturning the apple cart and redoing everything because of such a broad and systemic problem. Rather than trying to fix all the errors, it was evaluate the criteria at its core, create a new system for making sure that this doesn't happen again. Automating as much of it as humanly possible, hooked into data from the HR system on campus, and then doing a reshuffle of everybody. So in that reorganization, the main criteria that got changed is that the focus for what district somebody goes into now is primarily determined by their job code. So that's to say, are you a researcher? Are you a teacher? Are you a librarian? Are you in IT? Because with feedback from the assembly, all of our representatives, it was determined that people feel the strongest identity in terms of their districts based on the jobs that they do, not necessarily the departments that they are in. The libraries are a perfect example of the fact that we have Do It here. The folks that are in Do It are classified differently than librarians. This has come up already in one. So the feedback at large that we heard was that, you know, for instance, people in IT felt a stronger kinship to the issues in IT across campus than they might have in the division that would be libraries. So as an addendum to this point, now that we've scrambled everybody up, there are now 2 library districts, 525 and 526. Those districts don't have a like 525 as the Memorial Library District. Like that doesn't exist anymore. All the librarians into a hopper divided between 525 and 526. The identities of those districts are primarily librarian, not so much librarian in libraries X, Y, and Z. And as I said, LPG is not in the 525 or 526 districts. The important thing that everybody should know, there's a mechanism for those who are discontent with the district that they've gone in or disagree with the broad rule, because again, the broad rule is meant to hit the majority. For people who that does not capture the affinity that they feel hooks them into a district and a constituency, anybody at any time, for any reason, can go to Heather, oh my goodness, what's Heather's last name? Daniels, thank you. Heather Daniels, also a librarian, is as the secretary of the academic staff and say, I would prefer to be in district X. And Heather will say, okay, and put you in that district. It's easy as that. If an entire division of folks said, for instance, LPG, if LPG got together and said, you know what, we don't feel like our interests are represented well by being affiliated with all these Do It folks, all of LTG could just say, we want all these names, everybody signed off, let's just have all these names be in library districts, please move us to 525, please move us to 526. And that's all you have to do. So again, it was not a perfect solution for everybody, but with such a big task of reorganizing all the districts, that's kind of the way it had to be. Are there questions about how that went down or what steps are available for people or anything else? Fantastic.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Ian and Tom. Just for new people, if you're not familiar with what Academic Staff Assembly is, it's our governance body. So I would actually highly recommend going to a meeting. Are they monthly or are they?
Monthly.
Monthly. And then you can get an idea of what other academic staff look like, who they are on campus, and you can see that governing body. And if you have questions about who your reps are, you can contact me, you can contact Ian, you can contact Aaron, or you can contact Tom. Or Rebecca? Rebecca Payne. Okay, so next up we have Amy.
Actually,
Oh, sorry, Ian, stay up for the University Library Committee.
So I'm also serving on the University Library Committee, my second term there, which makes me kind of the agenda setter. Michael Cohen has joined in his first term on University Library Committee, so we are ex officio members, we are non-voting members. We do not so much represent somebody there with a vote on this shared governance committee, but we are there to offer perspective and help with procedural issues. University Library Committee is another mechanism of shared governance. So it is a committee that was chartered by the Faculty Senate. It has representation from 6 faculty members, 6 voting faculty members, 2 voting academic staff who may not be librarians, 2 voting university staff, and 3 student representatives from student governance. And then a positive rogue gallery of ex officio members who are there from a variety of capacities within the libraries to provide insight on library issues at large around campus. So this committee is advisory into library decision making, and vice versa. The committee is often a point of contact with the faculty to disseminate things around, for instance, the library master planning process or consolidation efforts. This becomes a contact point and dissemination of information sort of space that goes both directions. At our first meeting of the year, it was very much about setting tone and agenda, describing the things that I spoke about just now, so reviewing the ULC charge, familiarizing the members of the University Library Committee ULC with how the libraries work. If you think about these people, these voting members who are coming in perhaps new in the libraries on this campus are very complex and distributed. Talking about ULC priorities for the upcoming year, which have been laid out as the campus facilities master plan report. We're hoping to have that, administration is hoping to have that in yet this fall. And so of course, ULC will have a role in disseminating the results of the facilities master plan back out to faculty and people give input. We're doing a bunch of work communicating collection development priorities and articulating UW's shared print management strategies to faculty and other constituents through ULC, but also taking their feedback into account as well. Conversations around fundraising, donors, and space naming opportunities within the libraries. The continued work on library consolidation and the phased implementation and planning process. Support for the creation of and use of open educational resources, and in specific, the move of the UW Press into Memorial Library and the shape of what that partnership looks like. So adding to that, we'll also be looking at campus open access policy, of which we do not have one. It is not great. The UW-Madison does not have a campus-wide open access policy that ties into work around open educational resources. And the ULC made an effort to get traction with faculty on that last year. That effort did not come together because there was not, my understanding is there was not good messaging around it, and it sort of devolved into chaos of not even a common understanding of what terms meant, what it would mean to have an open access policy, what that does, why we should have one. So we'll be gearing up to take another run at that with a better, tighter message out to faculty, and especially department chairs and deans. Other stuff, I think that's most of the important things. The rest of it was a lot of bookkeeping and then some discussion about the nature of print collections and digital collections, in which as those conversations continue, I'm sure that the library members will continue to try and push the idea that this is not a versus conversation, that we should not be in the mentality of thinking of print versus electronic, but that as an R1 research university, we need to be in the business of supporting and investing in both sides of that table. So that's what ULC is up to. It's a monthly meeting, and it's action-packed, I tell you what. And I will keep giving you all that insight. Any questions I can answer? Thank you.
Okay, so we have these 3 points on the agenda, and I've talk in a slightly different order or basically address them. So what is a CASI? And first I want to say that I am new to the Librarians Assembly Steering Committee, so I may not have all of the right lingo and everything else memorized as yet. So if somebody else who is more knowledgeable needs to jump in and correct, speak up. So Librarians Assembly existed, as I understand it, existed long before the sort of CASI system was set up. And so a CASI is, at the university level, so it stands for Committee on Academic Staff Issues, and I'll just read it here, we're formed as part of legislation passed by Academic Staff Assembly in 1998. So the purpose of the CASI, and this is really important, and again, this language is coming from the sort of the legislation or whatever that was passed. So the purpose is to advise the dean or directors on formulation and review of policies and procedures concerning academic staff members. So Librarians Assembly, as you may or may not know, has activities and supports programming and such beyond just academic staff and beyond just this very small amount. So the CASI is sort of one aspect of Librarians Assembly. And just to highlight a couple of things, this is actually from the Academic Staff Assembly document. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that as a CASI, some of the things we're, I guess, could be responsible for doing would be formulating and reviewing policies and procedures as they relate to academic staff members. We try to, represent academic staff members in development of, again, related to policies and procedures that govern ourselves. Providing advice and feedback to our administration, and that's specific to the libraries. This isn't at the university levels we're talking where we're at. And we also, as a CASI, we should be developing opportunities for participation, shared governance, I'm missing a place, opportunities also for recognition, which is something else that the Librarians Assembly does. I'm just going to jump past this. On our own website, there's information about the Librarians Assembly bylaws of our assembly, and a lot of the points that are within our objectives really mirror what it means to be a CASI. And so I'd invite you to come and read through these if you haven't already, rather than me spending time here to do that. I highlighted a few points of these, but again, you can go through and read through. Primarily, we want to encourage administration to consult with us, help formulate policy as it relates to academic staff. Within the Librarians Assembly, one of the groups that, as a new person, my perspective, the sort of CASI-esque type activities is the Professional Concerns Committee. And so the Professional Concerns Committee itself is responsible for making recommendations to the Assembly and the Library Administration. Again, on matters of professional concern related to promotion, evaluation, appointments, salary, these types of things. And that's all within our bylaws. Some of the CASI type activities and support that Librarians Assembly and also the Professional Concerns Committee within the Librarians Assembly does is provide information on, number one, there are useful websites. I would encourage you, if you go to the Librarians Assembly webpage, under Professional Concerns, there's an area of useful websites that has all sorts of information about academic staff issues and compensation benefits, all this sort of information that would be of use to you and members of Librarians Assembly. The Professional Concerns, as well as Librarians Assembly as a whole, also supports, these are examples of things we've done in the past. There have been listening sessions. I wasn't involved in some of the previous year's activities, so I can't speak directly to them, but the Librarians Assembly also supports we've had the recognition ceremony each year, and these are just a couple of examples of things that that the Librarians Assembly does as a committee for academic staff interests. Sorry, I'm totally unprepared for this. But anyways, basically what it comes down to is it's what we make of it. And if there are issues related to some of those points that were in the mission statement, both of Librarians Assembly as well as Cassie's as a whole, that are of interest to you and you want to become involved, that's part of our goal and our mission, and it is what we make of it. So whether you're on the steering committee or not, there are definitely opportunities for exploring what will be good for all of us. So that's all I'm going to say.
All right. Do you have questions? So thank you, Amy. And then the rest of the agenda today is talking about ways to get involved in Librarians Assembly, besides that you're here, which is also great and a way to be involved. So, Pamela, we're going to talk about Harvard.
Hi there. So I'm Pamela O'Donnell at College Library, and I'm co-chair of the program committee this year with Anna, who's just back. So she doesn't know anything about what I'm talking about today because I haven't told her yet. But we hope that you might be interested in perhaps joining the programming committee. One of the first things we have scheduled is an Eat Talk Run, actually for this Friday. And you can see it'll be here from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning in Memorial Commons. There will be bagels. We're going to have Chris Turner of the Law Library talk about customizing web browsers. It's a preview of the program that he's going to be doing at WLA this year, so we're taking advantage of that. Heather, Tom, and Cameron Cook will be talking about the Digital Library Federation, the e-research network. And then last but not least, Casey Shocker of Steenbach Library will be uncovering the secrets of campus dining. October's Eat Talk Run will be held over the lunch hour. We're trying to alternate between morning and noon programming for those of us who have preferences about hours. That'll be on Friday the 13th. Cynthia Bachhuber at this point is scheduled to give us a preview of the upcoming World War I symposium that the Wisconsin Historical Society is holding. And then in November, Jessie Anderson is going to promise us to talk a riveting talk about her recent adventures in Norway. So if you have any ideas about what you would like to see, or if you know someone who has a really interesting hobby, a life hack, a library initiative, please contact anyone on the steering committee and myself. We would love to reach out and see if we could incorporate these people into our upcoming program. I have tried to contact Nancy McClemens to try to pin her down to talk about some of her recent travel adventures, and literally she's out of town for every upcoming scheduled meeting. So maybe in the spring she'll settle down one place long enough. We can also mark your calendars. Our annual book sharing event is scheduled for Wednesday, December 13th here over the noon hour. It's for people who like to who enjoy books and reading, and they get together and swap recommendations. So that'll be scheduled again Wednesday, December 13th. You can always find information about upcoming events on the Librarians Assembly website. And as I mentioned, Anne and I are looking for help, and this is a great way to kind of dip your toe into the Librarians Assembly waters, as it were, especially for planning the high tea that is and recognition ceremony that's usually held in April. So there's a sign-up sheet on the clipboard next to the nuts there on the table, and you can, if you're interested and would like to participate, just give us some of your contact information. Any questions about upcoming programming? I stunned you into silence with the breadth of opportunities. Okay, well, thank you, and look forward to seeing you at some of our events, probably Friday, 8:30.
Thank you, Pamela, and now Peggy will talk about the treasury report.
Hi, I'm Peggy Smith, and I am the treasurer. So I'm going to give you our budget update for where we're at currently. So last year, this was our projected spending. This is how much we thought we would spend. We thought we'd spend about $400 on the IT. We thought we'd spend about $287 on e-talk run, about $114 on our business meetings, and about $15 on book sharing, or $816 altogether. We thought that was how much we would spend for the entire year. This is what we actually spent. We actually spent $1,005. So it was a little more than we projected, right? That always happens, doesn't it? So that's the difference. Difference was $189.46. So it looks a lot worse than it actually was. It was really only $189 difference. These are our actual expenses. If you look by comparison by category, you can see that clearly we're spending the majority of our money on the IT. That's where the majority of our money is going. At least that's where the majority of our money has gone in the past. If we keep everything the same this year, probably will be the same. Oh, this is just a different chart. If you prefer pie charts versus graphs. Oops, sorry. So this is what we collected in dues last year. Well, this year. It's still this year. This is what we've collected in dues so far. So far, we've collected $1,080 in dues. So our fiscal year for Librarians Assembly ends on September 30th. But you didn't know that, did you? No. You did delete this and get it done. Okay, so we didn't have a fiscal year, and that was a problem. So we decided we needed a fiscal year. And so this is our fiscal year. Fiscal year ends on September 30th, and the new fiscal year starts on October 1st. But if you haven't paid your dues for this fiscal year, if you didn't get to pay your dues at the high tea, if you weren't able to come and you still need to pay your dues, you still have time to pay your dues for this fiscal year. Yes?
What if we don't remember?
That's an excellent question. I know if you paid your dues or not. You can ask me. So next year, next fiscal year, we decided we needed to add 10% to our projected spending because we saw what happened to us this year, right? For our projected spending, it wasn't correct. So next year we're projecting we're going to spend about $1,100. So currently we have $1,300 in our checking. We've got $59 in savings here. But so we currently have $1,100 encumbered, meaning we're projecting that's what we're going to spend. So we have $1,100 encumbered. So we really only have $225. That's what we have right now is $225 in our checking account. Because remember, $1,100 of it we're projecting we're already going to spend. So that's what we have extra right now, is $225. So your membership dues. So last year we suggested that you paid $25 for your dues. And again, this year we're going to suggest the same amount. Who knows who paid your dues? Only me. They're completely private. So when Anna asked who knows if you paid your dues, nobody else on the steering committee knows. Nobody in the general population knows. Only one person, because they are completely private, and that's me, and I'm not telling anyone else. Okay? So if you want to know, come ask me and I can tell you if you paid dues or not. Okay? And remember, we are completely self-funded. We are a CASI. We have no connection to the GLS. So if we're going to spend money for anything, if we're going to do anything new, if we're going to change anything, all of our funding comes from us. We are not part of the GLS. We are not connected to the libraries. We are our own entity. And so everything that we want to do, we need to fund ourselves. So that's where your dues go. Do you have to pay $25? No, we don't have to. That's just what we're suggesting. We have several people that pay more. We have several people that pay less, but 25 is what we suggest. So it's up to you. Just remember, if you haven't paid already for last year or the current year, I guess it's the current year, you can still pay. And if you want to pay early for next year, you can do that. You can start paying October 1st is when our new fiscal year starts. We collect most of your dues at the high tea, and just traditionally when it happens, because that's when you all come and you all pay your dues. But honestly, we can collect them at any point during the fiscal year. And I will keep track of it. I will know that you've already paid your dues, and nobody will expect you to pay dues again at the high tea. Okay? Any other questions? Yes?
What do you make a check out to?
You will make the check out to Librarians Assembly. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. So if you want a good treasurer for your group, have a business library. They're awesome. Okay, so we don't have that much time left, and I do have some space for announcements. And Ian's got a great announcement to make, but does anyone have like a quick announcement before we get to Ian's announcement? Okay, great. So we can spend the rest of the time on this. Thank you, Ian, for bringing this up.
Yeah. It's not really an announcement or anything like that. It's more like a thing that I think we ought to do. I mentioned this to the steering committee yesterday. So very soon we're going to need a new vice provost for libraries on campus. There's going to be a search and screen. Seats on that search and screen will probably be limited. There'll be a whole feedback process. Candidates will come in, we'll see them, we'll write in individually. I think that we can and should, as academic staff in the libraries, as professional librarians, use this CASI as a way to sort of mobilize ourselves and make a unified presence and unified endorsing voice around the hiring and selection process for the new vice provost for libraries. So the suggestion is really in two parts, but as you all discuss it and think about it and move forward, this is vetted by nobody, this is just Ian talking. So I think that initially it would be wise if we sort of organized around the idea that it would be good to have a representative on the hiring committee that was put forward by choice of academic librarians, professional academic librarians, because I'm sure there will be representatives from every other corner of the sky. And I know last time librarians on the committee were actually the minority. So I would love to see a librarian chosen by Librarians Assembly put forward to be a member on this committee to create buy-in in what's going on, to make sure that people feel like they've been heard, and so that we have a conduit for us to kind of represent issues and things that we would want to see the hiring process take into account. So that's one. Two, I think that in addition to the individual feedback that will undoubtedly come up, we'll all see the presentations as they come in, everybody will submit their own individual feedback. I think that it would be very savvy if we ahead of time did something like creating a rubric, like agreeing on the qualities within a rubric, so that as we as professional librarians go to these sessions, we have a uniform rubric that we're looking at. And we as individuals are saying, yeah, that's pretty good. Like, give us 10 on that part, and she gets 10 on this part. And so we've got this uniform metric that after viewing these things, we're submitting back to Librarians Assembly, complete with comments, etc. And then Librarians Assembly functions as a mechanism to bring all that feedback together and say, in one voice, the librarians of the general library system, or the librarians at UW-Madison, depending on how we construct it, would like to officially endorse candidate X as a facet of their CASI as their shared like their shared governance and representative thing. So I think it's a great way for us to use this organ we built here. I think that it would be a savvy and good way for us to move as a unit, move as a block, to have kind of the majority opinion about this very, very important decision heard. And yeah, I hope y'all see some merit to it. So it's not like I have any big authority or notion here, but I'm just kind of putting it before you as a thing that I think would be a good idea to do. So y'all can talk about that, or just like, or whatever, hopefuls, better ideas. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really great idea. Expressed that yesterday too. But anyway, the one thing that I do want, so a couple things. I think that we also need to organize as far as how we're going to report things up, so it's not a big hot mess with one person having to deal with however many librarians there are who are trying to express their opinions. So maybe kind of dividing out by location or by different areas, so that we can say there's one person representing all of us, and then there are, you know, say 10 people representing the different sections around campus, so that everybody feels that their voice is heard. The other thing that I really, so I know that we are a professional librarians organization, but I really think that it's important, because there is no librarians assembly for university staff, that we have some sort of group that's representing university staff interest as well. In this, if it means that we have maybe like 6 districts, quote unquote, of librarians from around campus who can kind of funnel their thoughts in, and then maybe 2 of university staff or whatever. I don't want to make it seem like I'm favoring librarians over, but just because they need to have their voices heard as well. And a lot of people are actually in very professional, not by title, but by work positions, and so they should have a voice. And since there is no assembly for them within the GNS, or the GNS, German Nordic Slavic, GLS, General Library System, this is my life. So because there is nothing representing that we should probably offer to allow them, at least for this part, to voice their concerns as well.
I know that after the change to university staff, there was talk of the university staff forming a body like that. I don't know if that's actually happened yet, but we could ask Nancy about the state of that.
Yeah, I think it's in the process.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's formed.
The other thing to think about, as you mentioned, with making sure voices are heard, is remembering that Librarians Assembly, while it's called Librarians Assembly, represents more than just librarians in the GLS, as evidenced by us. And one thing to think about would be is if we are separating into districts, whether or not we separate into other non-librarian units as well, to make sure that those voices are also heard.
Okay, I'm curious about, I don't necessarily see the utility of a district thing when it would be so easy to be like doing direct democracy just with like Qualtrics and things. So I'm not sure that I understand. I'm not like saying don't do it, but maybe you could tell me more about what the utility there is.
Well, my point is that different units, and kind of looking at myself as a bibliographer, a selector at Memorial, a lot of my colleagues want to ensure, and I agree with this, that they have their voices heard. And so rather than having people trying to fight to get the position, you know, as the representative that actually gets to sit on the committee, then we allow for people within the library community to have a representative if they choose to do so, so that person can meet with the person who's going to sit on the table.
Functionally like that, if our recommendation for the committee member goes through, that person who's on the committee,
right,
and they know that this X number of folks are their constituents, and they would have
right,
a meeting, 2 meetings with them to hear the funnel up
So yeah, the point is that everybody feels like they're heard. It's not necessarily, districting is a really bad word to use for it, but it's more like dividing out. So, you know, people who are not librarians but are academic staff will probably want to make sure that their unique voice as not librarians but as members of the community, so that we can see their angle. And then there are other people who might say, well, we want our voice to be heard, so they can kind of divide out and say, okay, yeah, I'm 9 people. You know, I'm representing a group of 9 people, and this is their concerns.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, obviously, photographers want their voice heard, but so do reference librarians, so do circulation librarians, so do, you know, everyone. But I don't know that we can figure that out in this particular meeting. I think what we need to do is decide, the steering committee needs to decide, what our next steps are. And so how are we going to decide how we're going to do this? I mean, do we all agree that this is a good idea? Is really what our first step, I think, should be. You know, is there anybody that doesn't think this is a good idea?
Perhaps we should have a motion for, do we do this, do we not? And then
you can make a motion.
Oh. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
but that's
protocol.
well, as there was not a new business section included in the agenda. I'm just like, I agree. I think like moving this forward is one of the important things is that stuff is going to happen fast.
Yeah.
And stuff is going to happen in not necessarily public fora. So it would be important for us to get organized, probably have like a task group specifically made to do this, unless exec is going to take it on directly. But in whatever way, shape, or form momentum starts to go is all the same to me.
So when's our next steering committee meeting? Do we want to open up discussion at the steering committee meeting for people to come to the steering committee meeting to discuss this, or do we want to have a different meeting to discuss this?
Any meeting, you just have to call a new meeting.
Yeah.
And you have to put it on the agenda so that so somebody can actually make a motion. I just want to make sure that this goes legally so that we have.
All right, so let's then do that.
Call a new meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I will do that.
And I'm sure that if you call a new meeting and say, here's the topic of this meeting, you're going to fill 126, you're going to fill the comments, you're going to get a lot of interested folks that will turn out and have opinions about how best to carry that process forward.
Okay. So I'll get that out.
Great, good idea.
As soon as possible. Any other comments? So thanks everybody for coming. There's still some food and juice. Please take some breaks. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.